Hey everyone, it's Adam once again. I'm the editor-in-chief of The Fifth Person, and in this video, we're going to talk about how you can invest in your 30s. So I'm still in my 30s. And how you invest in your 30s is going to be very different from how you invest in your 20s. So in your 20s, you're probably a lot more free, just starting out in your career. But in your 30s, you might be buying your first home, you might be getting married, or you might have a very young family as well. So the way you plan your finances and the way you invest has to take all of that into consideration as well. So if you're ready, let's find out how you can invest in your 30s. Alright, let's just dive right into things. So how you can invest in your 30s. So in your 30s, you might be considering a few things, like you might want to get married, you're going to buy your first home, or you might be starting a young family. So because of these commitments and these considerations, the way you're going to invest and manage your money is going to be very different from when you were in your 20s. Alright, so we're going to cover all of that in this video. Now the first thing you want to do is you want to save at least 20 to 30% of your income. So in your 20s, maybe you could save a lot more because you didn't have any commitments. But now in your 30s, because you have a family, a house to pay, maybe kids, it's a lot tougher for you to save money. Alright, but you still want to at least save 20 to 30% of your income, because if you don't even save any money, it's going to be almost impossible for you to invest. For you to invest, you must have some money set aside that you can grow, and without that, you can't invest. So try to save at least 20 to 30% of your income every single month. Alright, so for example, if you're making a salary of $4,000 and then you have expenses like your mortgage, your food, household, transport, and everything else that adds up to that amount, and then you can save, let's just say for example, $1,200 a month. So you can put this aside and start building an investment, some investable funds for you to start investing in the stock market or wherever else you want to invest in. And the other thing is you want to save at least 6 months worth of expenses. So if anything happens to you, maybe you lose your job, touch wood, or just some emergency that you need money for, you at least have 6 months worth to get back on your feet if anything ever happens to you. If 6 months is not enough for you, you can consider stretching this, saving even more money, save up to 12 months, so you'd have a 1 year buffer to get back on your feet if anything ever happens to you and your family. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to insure yourself. Maybe in your 20s insurance wasn't such a big thing. You're young, you're healthy, you don't have any dependents. But in your 30s, this will be something that's going to be a lot more important to you. So there are three major kinds of insurance. You have life insurance. So this is if you pass away or you suffer from total permanent disability, and if you have life insurance, then the insurance company will pay out a sum of money to your family and your dependents. Alright, and then you have health insurance, which takes care of your medical needs, your critical illness, your hospitalization bills. This is what health insurance is for. And then you have general insurance, which takes care of other things like your car insurance, your fire insurance. And there's one insurance that I really want to highlight, which is your mortgage insurance. So if anything happens to you and you have mortgage insurance, that insurance will take care of the remaining balance of your mortgage. So I think that's a critical thing, especially if you have a family and dependents. So if you have that, you can at least ensure that your house will not be taken away, and your family will always have a roof over their head. And if you live in Singapore and you have a HDB and you're using your CPF to pay for that mortgage, you'll automatically have this insurance, this mortgage insurance called the home protection scheme. So if you're using your CPF to pay for your HDB flat, you have that already. If not, do consider looking out for mortgage insurance as well. Now the other thing is you want to pay off your debts first. Now it's going to be very difficult for you to invest before you pay off your debts, because some of the interest rates on your debt can be really, really high. So I'm not talking about your mortgage interest here. So mortgage is something that we will have for the next we take 20 to 30 years to pay off, but the interest rate on that is relatively low, is relatively stable, and it's something that for most people we can't pay off really quickly. Alright, so that's understandable. But if you have consumer debt or credit card debt which has a very high interest that you're paying off every month, you want to make sure you pay that off first before you even consider investing. Because take a look at some of the interest rates for credit card. It's at 25%. This is an extremely high interest rate. And instead of taking, like, say $10,000 and investing in the stock market and trying to make 25% in the stock market, I'd rather you take the money and pay off your credit card debt so you don't lose 25% in interest every single year, right? So it's very difficult to earn a 25% return in investments consistently. Sometimes some people can boast about making 100% or 50% or whatever it is, right? But to make 25% per annum on a consistent basis is not easy. So instead of trying to do that in the stock market, take that money and pay off your debt, your high interest debt first before you even invest. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to continue contributing to your CPF accounts, especially your special account. All right. So just to give a quick recap, you have an ordinary account which pays you 2.5% interest, and you have your special and MediSave accounts which pay 4% interest. Now, the great thing about this 4% interest is that it's risk-free. Right? If you put this in your special account, you will earn that 4% every single year, which is guaranteed by the CPF. If you invest in the stock market, yeah, you can earn a higher return, but that entails some risk. And not every investment you make will be a successful one. So yes, over the long term, you want to earn a higher interest in the stock market. But at the same time, if you have some money and you want to start contributing extra to your special account, I think that's a good option as well, because it guarantees you a 4% interest, which is guaranteed. All right. So besides the monthly contributions from your salary, you can also contribute up to like $7,000 a year to your special account, so that you can grow your special account balance much faster. And 4% you stretch out over 10, 20, 30 years will add up to quite a bit. And if at 4% risk free. All right, so this is the full retirement sum for the CPF as of January 2020 is $181,000. So the trick here is that you want to hit your full retirement sum as soon as you can, because this full retirement sum will increase over the years as inflation goes up, right? It's not going to stay here. So as you can see, in 2003, the full retirement sum was $80,000, but because of inflation and adjustments to lifestyles and all that, the CPF has steadily increased the full retirement sum to $181,000. So the thing is, you want to get to this as soon as possible, so that the 4% interest that you earn on your special account every single year will take care and cover any increases in the full retirement sum that goes up over the years. Okay, the next thing you want to do if you want to start investing in the stock market is that you want to invest more for growth. So in your 30s, you're still relatively young, you still have a long runway in front of you. You can take a bit more risk, you can go for a bit more growth. Alright, so just to give you a spectrum of the kinds of investments you can look at. So on one hand, you could be more defensive. You're looking more for dividend income. You're looking to preserve your capital. On the other hand, you can be a bit more aggressive. You're going for growth. You want to look for capital appreciation. So if you're younger, you can afford to take a bit more risk and go for a bit more growth. So in your 30s, you'll be somewhere there, and maybe someone who's in their 50s or 60s, they probably don't want to take that risk, because if anything happens to them and they end up losing their their retirement account, then they have nothing to retire on, and that's not a great thing, a great situation to be in. So as you grow older, you're a bit more defensive. All right. So in your 30s, you can go a bit for more growth and capital appreciation. So just to share with you the rule of 100, where take 100 less your age, and then that gives you a result. And based on this, you can decide the amount of defensive and aggressive assets that you want to invest in. All right, so this can apply to your overall investment portfolio. You might want to have 30% in bonds, or maybe in your CPF, and 70% in which is in more aggressive asset classes like stocks. And I think this rule of 100 also applies to within your stock portfolio. So within your stock portfolio, you could go for more defensive stocks which pay a steady dividend, and you can go for more aggressive stocks which earn you a higher return because of the growth that they display. All right, so just to give you an example, let's just say I'm 30 years old, so I'm going to use this as the rule of 100 as a rule of thumb, and allocate 30% of my capital, of my portfolio, to defensive stocks. All right, so dividend stocks or REITs and bonds, which are a bit more steady, but they give me a very, very steady return, and they pay me a very stable dividend income. All right, and then the rest of my portfolio, I could invest in for more growth. So I'll be looking for companies that are in sunrise industries like cloud computing, the internet, or e-commerce. And there's a lot more potential for these industries to be bigger in many years to come. And I will look for younger growth stocks that can ride on this wave in these sunrise industries as well. At the same time, I can also invest in stalwarts. So stalwarts are large dominant companies that are already very successful, but they still have very decent growth in them despite their success and size right now. So one example could be like Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google. So Google is already a huge company, but they still have a lot of potential growth in them just simply because of the industry that they operate in, which is in cloud computing and the internet. So these are stalwarts. So you want to invest 70% in these companies for for capital growth and more gains. Now, just want to remind you that the rule of 100 is just a rule of thumb. All right, if you're more risk adverse, you might not want to do a 30%, 70% split. You could do a 50-50 thing. It's really up to you, and depends on your investment goals and your risk profile. So another thing I want to point out is that when it comes to income and dividends, Singapore and Hong Kong are examples of stock markets that are really pretty good for dividends because there's a dividend tax-free environment. Any dividends that you earn, you don't have to pay any taxes on them. But because these economies are a little bit small, they might not be the best for growth. But when it comes to growth, you can consider investing in the US because it is one of the most dynamic and largest economies out there. They have some of the most innovative businesses too as well, and all the technology and the internet, and it's a huge place and a huge marketplace as well. So for growth, you may want to look into those kinds of markets and those kinds of companies. And then when it comes to dividends, you want to look for something in Singapore or Hong Kong or anywhere else that has a very favorable, a dividend tax environment. Now, of course, before you invest, you want to make sure that you have an investment process that allows you to pick high quality stocks. So it's a whole process that you need to do. You need to do your due diligence to make sure that you know what you're doing before you invest. So this is just an overall process of how we look for investment ideas, how we analyze them, and then we build a watch list, and then we wait for the right price before we enter, and then we build a portfolio, and then there are times when we need to exit. So you need to do these things as you are looking to invest in particular stock, in dividends or in income or in growth. The other thing that you want to consider as well is you can also diversify with index ETFs. So what is index ETFs? All right, so an index is basically a basket of stocks. You have stock A, B, C, D, and E, and you put them all together, it forms a stock index. And there are exchange traded funds or ETFs, funds which basically track the index. All right, so in America, there's one index that's called the S&P 500, and the ETF that follows this is called the SPDR S&P 500 ETF Trust. So it includes some of the biggest and most famous companies in the US and of course in the world as well, so like Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, Facebook. These are all brands that you're familiar with. And when you invest in S&P 500, you're investing in all these big companies and 500 of the best companies in the US in one go. So you don't have to invest in 500 different companies all by yourself. All you need to do is just buy one S&P 500 ETF, and that allows you to diversify immediately. All right, so you can consider this. If you also want to further diversify your portfolio, you can consider using index ETFs. So if you take a look at the performance of the S&P 500 ETF since its inception in 1993, the performance on an annualized basis is 9.44%, which is a very, very decent return for a stock investment. Now, the last step, of course, is you want to set your financial goals. All right, you want to make sure you have an end goal in mind and what you need to do to get there. So let's just say, for example, you're 30 years old right now. This is going to be your 30s, and when you get out of 40s, what you're going to have. All right, so this is going to be 10 years, 30 years to 40 years old. And let's just say you're able to save $1,200 a month, like I shared in my example, and you can invest it at 9% per annum. I'm going to use 9%, which is very similar to what the S&P 500 ETF can get you. So you may be able to do better than this, if you pick your own stocks and you concentrate in more growth companies as well. But just as a baseline, I'm just going to use the S&P 500 9% per annum just as a baseline to calculate the returns. All right. So if you do this and you do it for 10 years, what are you going to get? So over 10 years, if you save $1,200 a month and you invest that at 9% for 10 years, it will grow to $218,000, which is almost $250,000. So I think that is a very good amount to grow in your 30s. And this is just based on if you don't have any principal. Let's just say if you didn't invest in your 20s, and you're starting just from your 30s and you start saving and you start investing at 9% for 10 years, this is what you're going to get. But of course, if you were starting to grow your money already in your 20s and you have a bit more money to start investing right now, this amount would be bigger as well. So really start considering putting money aside. You need to save before you invest and start investing in it and allow your money to grow for you. All right, just to summarize, number one, you want to make sure that you save at least 20 to 30% of your income, because if you don't save, you can't even invest. So that's the first step that you need to do for yourself. Number two is you want to insure yourself. So if anything happens to you, your family and your dependents are taken care of. Number three, you want to pay off your debts. There's no point investing if you have very high interest debt that I'd rather you pay off before you start investing. Number four, you want to contribute to your CPF special account, which pays you 4% guarantee every single year. Over the long term, that will add up to quite a bit. Number five, because you're in your 30s, you can invest more for growth. You still have many years in front of you. You have a long runway, so consider taking more risk, a slightly bit more risk, and investing in companies that allow you to invest for a bit more growth. And number six, of course, you can still consider diversifying with index ETFs, which are, for example, like the S&P 500, which allows you to invest in 500 of the best companies in the US. And of course, number seven, you want to set your financial goals so you know exactly what you need to do every single month to make sure that you get to the financial goals that you want to reach. Alright, I hope you find that video really useful and it gave you a lot of direction about how you should manage your money in your 30s. So once again, if you like this video, just like the video and hit the like button, and then share it with your friends and family, especially those who are in their 30s as well. And you can always subscribe to more of our channel and get more videos from the 5th person as well. So we'll see you around.